My name is Jack Grady, and as a member of the First Baptist Church Archives and History Committee, I count it a real privilege to represent Chairperson Julia Dyer and the members of this committee, who are Catherine Abernathy, Murtis Adcock, Jim Lee, Island Lipham, Kay Minshew, and Calvin Spinks. The committee has an ongoing project to record, through the means of video, the people and the events that have made First Baptist Church on the Square in LaGrange a great witness for Christ through its multiple ministries and missions. It is our hope that future generations may be able to better understand and appreciate the Christian influence of past years. We are here today, August 27th, 2010, to document the establishment of a dental clinic for those in our community unable to afford dental care. This is a need long recognized by the local dental professionals. We are pleased to have with us Patrick Cruz and Margaret Ross, the two people most responsible for the development of the clinic at First Baptist. The interview takes place in the dental clinic at our church and begins with Patrick Cruz. Parents' name and where they were born, your children.
Okay. Well, my name is Patrick Cruz, and I'll be happy to tell you I was born June the 5th, 1957 in Blackshear, Georgia. I grew up in Dublin, Georgia. I moved there when I was in the 3rd grade, and so I consider Dublin to be my home. But we moved to, my wife and I, Pam Cruz, moved to LaGrange in 1985. And we became members of this church in 1987. We were invited here by two of our friends, Nancy Hartman and Janice Gristle. And we have raised 3 daughters in this church. 2 daughters, Lauren and Jessica, are both married. Jessica lives in LaGrange, Lauren lives in Columbus. And then I have a younger one, daughter Callie, that is still in college at Columbus State. And so we've been part of this church and raised our family here since 1987.
Good, good. When did you first join the church, make a profession of faith?
When I was about 11 years old, I joined the church, Jefferson Street Baptist Church, that I had grown up there in Dublin.
And when did you join First Baptist LaGrange?
It was 1987, but I don't remember the exact month.
That's all right. You're doing well, man. Okay. Where did how did you and your wife meet?
Well, we were actually at a church function. Our church youth group had gone to a bowling event, and so that's when I first met her. Ironically, I had gone to school with one of her brothers, but did not know her.
I see. Thank you for sharing that. And now I want to hear about the dental program here. Patrick, you are a successful banker by profession, and dentistry seems a far cry from banking. What motivated you to want to establish this dental program, this dental ministry in our church?
Well, I think there's 2 kind of important steps in that. Number one was that a very, very good friend of mine that I attended junior college with later became a Baptist preacher, and most recently he was in Kentucky. And his church had a couple of missions opportunities, ministries going on in his church, and one of them was a dental and medical clinic. And so I talked with David every once in a while, and so I was familiar with what his church was doing. And then just a year or so before we started our clinic, there was some discussion being made in Troup County about providing free medical and dental care to the less fortunate in this area. And so I saw an opportunity that maybe our church could become involved in a part of that. And the dental was would be a natural fit because we have several dentists in our church. And so it's, maybe there's a mission opportunity for the church. And then a comment was made by our hospital administrator, Jerry Fultz, that actually a lot of medical problems start with dental problems. And so if you can do good preventative or maintenance for folks on their teeth,
Yes.
then it can prevent a lot of medical problems down the road.
That's
So
interesting.
things just begin to move, and a lot of pieces, the Lord just made many parts of the puzzle to come together, and there was an opportunity for us to step out. I talked to Dr. Baxter about it. He was very supportive, and a lot of things happened after that to make it successful.
Right. Sounds like, in effect, this became your missions field right here
Absolutely.
in our community. Well, thank you for sharing that. We've heard that for some time, the dental community, the dentists themselves, had discussed the need for a clinic, and I guess you picked up on that at some point. Was it difficult to get volunteers, dentists to volunteer their services?
No, once things became apparent that we would take this on as a mission, I was directed to talk to Dr. Matt Doris, who was a retired dentist here in Troup County. And Dr. Doris for years had a vision of creating a free dental clinic here in Troup County. And he was able to direct us to the District 4 Health Services here, who had a self-contained dental trailer that they gave us, or gave on loan to us, that we could use.
I see.
And so, one of the most important things is you got to have instruments and equipment and chairs and all the stuff that you see sitting around us today.
Yes.
And the trailer kind of solved all that in the very beginning. So with Dr. Doris's encouragement and the use of the trailer, then we began to set about, how do we bring all the necessary resources together? And of course, one of the most important pieces that you had to have was someone that knows how a dental clinic works and understands the operations, because, as you mentioned, I'm a banker. I know very little about extracting teeth. And so Margaret his name came up, and so I went and talked to Margaret. I've known her for many years through many of her other civic involvements in here at the church, and talked to her about, would you manage the office? And she probably didn't know what she was volunteering herself for, but she didn't hesitate.
Yeah,
and
sure.
so
Good.
we had our office manager in place, and then we needed to talk to someone about some of the technical aspects, and Dr. Walt Stewart, a member of our church, was offered to sit down and talk with us a little bit about it. And the next step, go forward just a little bit, was we got the dentists. We invited all dentists in Troup County to come to the church. We fed them, and we talked to them about this vision of wanting to start this clinic.
I see.
And from that night, things moved very quickly, and I think within just probably a couple of weeks, we were in operation here at the church.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And I have heard that Dr. Walt Stewart was instrumental in helping to launch it, and without any delay in the process. So you've touched on that, but you might want to elaborate just a little bit about his involvement as well at the beginning.
Well, my concern was not knowing anything about dental operations. I was probably a little bit more concerned about every little thing and how it works. And so when we met with the dentist that night and a few questions would come up, I guess I'd get a little nervous about, well, how are we going to do this and how are we going to do that? And I just won't ever forget it. One moment, Walt said, well, not to worry about all that. He said, I pull teeth with chickens running between my legs. And what he meant by that was he'd been on some mission trips before to countries, I believe, in Central America, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's like, don't worry about all those little details. Let's just go to work. And he said, why don't we just start next week? And so, where mine would have been 2 more months, I think just within 2 weeks we were in operation.
That's great.
In October, it was October of 2007.
I see. Wonderful story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, later, the time came when the trailer was no longer available to you. You mentioned the trailer a while ago and how significant that was. So you had a new challenge then at that point, didn't you?
That is correct.
Describe this process of developing the permanent clinic.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned, the trailer was a self-contained trailer. It had all the chairs, the equipment, the lighting, everything we needed in there. And We knew that it was on loan, but we weren't ready to give the trailer up when they called us and told us they needed to move it. But you know, there was an opportunity for them to try to go to another neighboring county that they needed assistance. And so the Lord worked it out that we began to have discussions about moving into a more permanent home. And so as we looked around, the church offered us this room that we're in today. And so we began, it was a storage room, mops and brooms and all things sitting around in here. And it was like, I just don't know if that's going to work out. But we began to work on the idea, and we went to Paul Barnes here at the church, and Paul agreed to help us set this up as a clinic. And there was a lot of planning and work that had to be done, a lot of technical assistance that we needed. But Paul went out on the internet, did a lot of research, and he began to roll up his sleeves. And through his guidance and his hard work, we were able to put in water lines and air lines. And one of our other members, David Blackwell, got in here and took this floor and turned it into the beautiful blue floor that you see today.
Yes.
But it all came together. I'd like to mention too that we received some financial funding from the Georgia Baptist Health Foundation.
Oh, I see.
For 2 years, we received funding from them, about $18,000 to $19,000, and that helped purchase some of the supplies and equipment you see in the room today.
I see. Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, in a moment, we're going to ask Margaret to get into the actual documentation of the people who make this happen. And you've touched on some of them, of course, already. But I thank you so much for giving us the background and how this all began to shape up, come together in a remarkable way, really. Well, Margaret Ross, thank you so much for your presence today and for the opportunity to talk with you about your deep interest in this dental clinic. Margaret, you've become involved in the total operation here, I know, and it's apparent that you have a heart for this ministry, and we appreciate what you're doing. You are, by reason of your experience and your professional background, training, and all of that, you're uniquely equipped to fulfill the needs that they have here in the professional operation of the clinic. Share a bit of your personal biography, if you will.
Well, I'm not ashamed. As Patrick said, I was born April the 11th, 1941. World War II was just on the horizon then when that happened in Post Oak Forks, Alabama. And you laughed at me. That's between Hickory Flat and Fredonia, Alabama. I gave my heart to the Lord when I was 14 at a small Baptist church in Fredonia, Alabama. It actually was an old wooden structure, still had the slave quarters in it. They met upstairs in that beautiful old building. It later burned, and that was such a tragedy when that happened. But was married to Dr. Dick Ross for 35 years, have 3 children. My oldest is an FBI agent, special agent, has been in Washington, D.C. for the last 20 years, in and out of Washington, D.C., has wanted to come home to the South. So after 7 years and 12 rejections, FBI is finally going to let him come home. And he'll be stationed in Mobile, Alabama, but closer to LaGrange, Georgia than Washington, D.C. 2 daughters that are educators, and the 3 of them, with their spouses, have given me 7 wonderful grandchildren. And 2 of those have actually helped here at the clinic. 2 of them want to be dentists like Granddaddy.
Wonderful.
And there are 4 granddaughters and 3 grandsons.
Thank you for that. I'm also from Chambers County, but I never heard of Post Oak, I'll tell you that.
My husband used to delight in saying that I was from Post Oak Forks, Alabama, but it's Post Oak, but that was better than his Kolar, India, so we've had a fun time ridding each other of that from whence we came.
Yes, all right. Well, I do know where Hickory Flat is. Okay. You mentioned that you've been involved in the dentistry profession for, what, 35?
42 years.
42 years. and I can see readily why Patrick made his comments about he knew the first person that he needed to talk with was Margaret Ross. So I can understand that. So thank you. Okay, the dental clinic. Let's get to that. We know that it meets a tremendous need, and we know that the demand is great. Tell us, how do you screen and qualify the patients?
We have been trained, there are 3 of us here at the church that have been trained to screen our patients through the Georgia Community Health. And the reason we screen them is so our dentists can have sovereign immunity. That means nobody can sue the church and they can't sue the individual dentist. So we're covered through the state laws with that. And we have the patients come in and we have to ask their criteria for being eligible is if they have worked for the last 6 months, have a job, if they are under the 200% poverty level. And there are so many people that qualify for that. There's so many people hurting and don't have dental insurance, and in these economic times just don't have the money to get these hurting teeth extracted and their mouths restored.
Just a curiosity, I guess, is it on a first come, first served basis, or do you give priority in need?
We try to help people that are hurting the most. If someone comes in with the jaw all swollen and you know they have just been miserable,
Yes.
we try to get, Dr. Walter Stewart will absolutely come on Saturday night if he needs to help relieve that pain.
Yes.
We have the capabilities here at the clinic of giving antibiotics. The CVS pharmacy has supplied us with some of those, and we don't do any heavy narcotics here. We just do, just
Yes.
kind of pain relievers. But if they're hurting, if they're swollen, if there is a need there, we try to see those people that are suffering and have been for some time.
Margaret, there you've mentioned some of the people who are involved, but could you go ahead and kind of document for us the dentists, the other volunteers that do various services, provide various services? Would you do that for us?
I will try to do that. Dr. Walter Stewart and his staff, of course, would be the number one. He allows us to bring our instruments to be sterilized at his office, and his staff has to do that. He also lets the patients come for their Panorex x-rays, and they get those done the day before they come here that night to the clinic. So that is a big contribution from Dr. Stewart to do that, and for his staff to be willing to help. Dr. George Childress, Dr. Chris Harmon, Dr. Karen Jackson, Dr. Doug Kersey, Dr. Angela Bullock Patterson, Dr. John Jackson, Dr. Steve Teever, Dr. Bill Miller, Dr. James Tyre, Dr. John Ballenweider, Dr. Tom Hopkins, Dr. Mark Oliver. And I will say Dr. Tom Hopkins will come. He's almost, I think, a first cousin to Walt Stewart. Dr. Hopkins will come over after practicing all day in Manchester, Georgia, and will come and help out as often as we call him and as often as we need him. We also have 2 very capable dental assistants, and one of them is a member of our church, Candace Everingham. She has 3 little stepping stone fellas, but she leaves them at home with her husband on Thursday nights, and she comes and helps and has been instrumental in training our 2 young men. We have 2 14-year-old young men that come and volunteer on Thursday evenings. One is Thomas Pop. His father works for Kia, and he has been doing that for about 2.5 years. And then my grandson, Rushton Dobbins, comes and has been trained. And they've done a wonderful job. And also Laura Webb is a super dental assistant, and she comes, and she and Dr. Pitts have given a lot of things to the dental clinic. Also, we couldn't do it without the help of Dr. Bill Himes and Dr. Don Neal. They're both specialists, oral surgeons. And there are some wisdom teeth, 3rd molars, that our general dentist just don't tackle here in the dental clinic. We just aren't equipped for that. Yes. So Dr. Hines and Dr. Neal have just really wonderfully contributed to that. Also, Dr. David Fagundes does root canals and does the endodontic part for us.
You have a wealth of expertise available.
Yes, we do, and they're willing to do it. Could not have done this clinic without Paul Barnes. He came in, as Patrick said, rolled his sleeves up, investigated, found out what will work, what will not work. And David Blackwell put the floor in. It was an ugly brown, and he didn't like it. And he had his fellows come in with jackhammers, take that out, and then put this beautiful epoxy blue chairs in here, blue floor in here, and it turned out so very well. Mr. Clarence, our church painter, has come and retouched. Anytime I ask him, I've got a nick here, Mr. Clarence, and he'll bring his paint in his bucket. And Fernandez Lee and Corey Avery come every Friday morning and clean the dental clinic. And I would be very remiss if I didn't mention Pam Cruz and Pat Tyndall. They help screen and do those. And Pat Tyndall and Carol Albus are the first people that most of the patients talk to. They make the appointments. They call, and then they refer them to me, and I make the appointment for, or give them Dr. Stewart's name, and they call and schedule for their x-rays and then come here. And one more I'll have to say is Chick-fil-A, and Rob Bowman came to me right after we started this, and I was wondering how, if I can get some WU ladies to make supper for them, dinner for these doctors and volunteers, because they work through their dinner hour. And Rob came up and said, whatever you need from Chick-fil-A, we'll be glad to do. And he's done as many as 15 dinners. I just tell him how many I'll need that night, and his help comes, and we say thank you so much, and they go out the door with the door hitting them in the rear saying, it's our pleasure, and it always is. They do a super job at taking care of us. Patrick, have I left anyone out that you can think of?
I think that covers most everyone. As you can tell, we have a lot of people that step and have a lot of, it's not just 2 or 3 people, it's a bunch of people.
It's amazing the involvement that you have, that you've been able to put together. Well, it's a remarkable ministry. As I look around this room and as I hear you talk about who's done what, the floors, and they even ended up matching the chair color and all this, but as I look at the room, Margaret, why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of the equipment that's in here? I'm sure that most of it was contributed, was it?
Most of it was donated. Yeah. Most of it, Paul Barnes went personally and brought it here. When we got the blue floor, Paul said, we've got chairs donated, Miss Margaret, and he was going to, Dr. Jamie Tyre gave us these. And Paul went and got them and brought them, and lo and behold, one was beige and one was blue. Well, I was talking to Paul about cabinets and how we're going to build and this sort of thing. I envisioned putting a central one in the middle that both chairs could work from. But Paul said, and Patrick, we were looking over there, Dr. Tyre has some cabinets he said we could have too. Lo and behold, those came, and to this woman's eye, they were beautiful. It aesthetically is beautiful. Yes. They were beige and blue, and
they
fit right in. Yeah. Well, at the same time, we found some podi art that we didn't know we had from a sister city. And the paintings, 2 of those, our Life Committee, the LaGrange International Friendship Exchange, donated those to the clinic.
Which has special significance to you.
Right. And the rose behind you on that wall, a friend of mine from Northern Ireland painted for my birthday and asked if I would hang it in the clinic. So that's why it's here. And the other 2 pictures are from Alexander Clinton. He's the artist that went to Northern Ireland and did the book, did the painting in the book. But all the dentists, I would say almost 100%, have donated some part of this dental clinic. They come in on Thursday nights whenever it's their night. They bring their gloves or they bring syringes or whatever and say, I had this extra and I want to donate it to the dental clinic.
Remarkable.
And one of our church members picked up the cabinet over there that we store all our anesthetic in. Someone was throwing it away, and she said, it was Larry Cousin's wife, and she said, I think they might use that at the dental clinic. So she brought that to us, and we have that with the with all anesthetics
Yeah,
down
and
there.
who knows, there
So-
might be other things too.
We could not do this without this wonderful church backing it.
Yes.
We have a wonderful church here that believes in missions, and
Yes, we do.
almost every person that goes believes in this dental clinic and wants it to work, and they have contributed and prayed for it and given money for it to work.
Yes. Well, it's most rewarding to sit here and listen to both of you review, and it's so apparent, as I mentioned earlier, that you're both so completely dedicated to what you're doing here. And as a member of this church, I want to thank you for that, and I know that it's just a blessing to everybody who has a part in it. And it's certainly a blessing to the people who come here for the help. And thank you for it, and I wish you continued success with it. Margaret, one other thing, I've heard that no patient comes into this office, this dental clinic, without your testimony of the saving grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. And that speaks volumes also for your commitment and for your dedication to the church and to the people that are part of this ministry. So, are there other comments that either of you would want to share? Anything else think of?
Well, I think, Jack, in closing, I think there's two things important to me. Is number one, it really wouldn't happen without the dentist. Because there's a lot of things that Margaret and I and other people can do, but we're not trained to pull the teeth. And it's so important to us to have those dentists and have them involved. So we appreciate their support. The second thing is just thinking about the patients, that come, and we see probably between 10 and 12 patients a night, and as Margaret mentioned, some come in with their jaws swollen, and everybody has their story, but to see someone in pain and know that we can give them care and take that pain away for hopefully the rest of their life. That's what it's all about. That's what gives you that good feeling, though, that you minister to them in their time of need. And so a lot of cases, we could spend another couple hours talking about some of the people that we've waited on and what a difference it's made in their life. So we do this for them.
Good. Thank you so much.
And the sign on the wall outside the church says First Baptist Dental Clinic, care given in Jesus' love. And that's why we do it. We give it in Jesus' love. And almost every one of these dentists feel that, and they give it too. The patients just feel it. They've told us, actually, they feel Jesus' love here. And that's what we're supposed to be about.
Great. Let me close by thanking Paul Barnes, who is our video technician and also, I guess you could say, our production director. And also thank Jim Lee, who is our facilitator and our producer and our director for this particular project. Thank you so much.